Hey everybody, welcome back to another Jackson Jet Setting cruise review. Today we are reviewing my 7-night Western Caribbean cruise on the Wonder of the Seas. I'm going to review every aspect of my experience, from booking to embarkation, the ship itself, the food and beverage, activities on the ship, our ports of call and the excursions in them, and just an overall feeling of how the cruise went. If you like these types of videos, if you love cruise reviews, you love Royal Caribbean, please subscribe to my channel. Like this video, it really helps me out. We got tons of content on the channel now from dozens of ships, ship tours, ship reviews, lots of tips and tricks to help save you money and time on your next cruise vacation. And if you're someone who wants an expert to plan your trip for you, I can do it for you. Contact me at markjackson@jacksonjetsetting.com. and I can help you find that next cruise vacation. Okay, so I was able to get on board with a casino offer, which I was very excited about. So I was just paying taxes and fees, which means I got to stay in an inside cabin on this voyage. Wasn't able to secure an ocean view or balcony cabin with my offer, which is no big deal. A lot of people dread the inside cabin. They're going to feel maybe claustrophobic. They're going to be worried that they're not going to get enough sunlight coming into the room. For me, I really do love an inside cabin because I'm pretty light sensitive, and so if I'm trying to sleep in, I'm gonna sleep in because no light's gonna peek through those drapes. My cabin fit my brother-in-law and I perfectly. We had plenty of room to spread out. I loved the couch just to kind of get ready. Didn't do a lot of hanging out in the room, but that's not really what I go on a cruise for. Now, others may want to stay in an ocean view room for obviously the ocean views, or balcony because you're going to be spending more time in the room. I'm someone who's just out and about on the ship constantly, so I don't really need a big hangout spot. Now, I'll take it if it's given to me, or if I really want a balcony cabin that trip, maybe going to Alaska or something like that. But for this trip, I've been to these ports before. I did not mind the inside cabin. Embarkation was a little messier than normal for Royal Caribbean, and it wasn't Royal Caribbean's fault. They had to get recertified by the US Coast Guard on our cruise. I guess they have to do this annually, and it just happened to land on our cruise. So everything was delayed about an hour. So by the time that I got to the port about 11:30, embarkation had definitely begun, and there were a lot of people in the terminal. So overall, it was handled fine, and the normal Royal Caribbean speediness through the terminal once I kind of got through security checks worked really great. I think Royal Caribbean is one of the best for getting people on board quickly. This ship was sold out on our voyage, and she can fit a bunch of people, almost 8,000 passengers. So things did run smoothly. It just was a little bit more delayed, and I like to get to the ship early just to kind of beat those crowds. So I had a little bit more crowds than I normally like, but no big deal. And we had the unlimited dining package on this voyage, so we were able to roll right up to the reservation desk for all of our dining, make all the dining reservations for the whole cruise, do that up front. I do recommend people do that. And we were able to roll right into lunch at the Mason Jar. I'll talk through food in a bit, but first let's talk about the ship. So the Wonder of the Seas launched in 2022. She was originally designed for the Chinese market, interestingly, and you really can't tell that that's the case, but Royal Caribbean definitely did make some adjustments to the ship, I think, in anticipation of that. You can definitely tell on the emergency placards on the back of your stateroom doors that a lot of the language is in Chinese as well as English. So that's one area that I definitely noticed. But she is a part of the Oasis class ships, and up until this January 2024, she was the largest ship in the world. Now she's the second largest because Icon has launched. But if you've been on a Oasis class ship before, then you're going to be pretty familiar with this ship. There are definitely some changes that I liked and some that I didn't like. I've been on 4 out of the 6 at this point, and now I'm going to go on Utopia in a few weeks. So I am familiar with these ships now at this point. I know my way around, and I know when things are a little bit different. The biggest change I saw on Wonder of the Seas versus my recent cruise on Symphony of the Seas or Allure this year is there's only one flow rider because they added a little playscape in the back for the kiddos, which is great for the kiddos. I do think on a ship this big you need 2 flow riders, though I think that was either a budget cut or maybe for the Chinese market or maybe a little bit of both there. But overall, that was one big thing. Kind of the whole aft part of deck 14 and 15. That's all really changed that neighborhood there because they've closed in the Windjammer a little bit more than on other Oasis class ships, and which is a bad change in my book. It's very closed in and it gets really chaotic and busy, and there's a huge bottleneck of people. Of course, it's one of the places to get free food on the ship, so it's going to be very busy, especially in the morning during breakfast. It's a mess. It was not my favorite part of my voyage by any means. But they did take over part of what was normally a part of the Windjammer and turn it into a specialty restaurant, which is the Mason Jar. One very positive change I noticed was actually in my stateroom, and there were plugs and USBs near the bed. That's never been found on a cruise ship that I have sailed on, so that's a very welcome change. It is very, very hard to find a plug. Sometimes I always bring a cruise approved extender for all my electronics making these videos, so it's great to have a plug next to the bed just to have your phone plugged in and be able to look at it in bed. One other change I noticed was in the casino. It was definitely a lot less smoky on the non-smoking side of the casino. So the main room of the casino has a smoking side and a non-smoking side. It worked excellently. There were actually buffets in the casino, and that was built for the Asian audience because I know in Asia there's less drinking involved in gambling, and usually there's some sort of food aspect in the casinos. At least during my travels in Asia, I've noticed that. There is a non-smoking casino. I believe that this was the first ship to launch a fully separate non-smoking casino, but they've since added those to some of the other Oasis class ships, so it's nice to see that too. Otherwise, you're going to find a lot of your favorite things on board the Wonder of the Seas. You're going to have the Perfect Storm water slides, which were similar, if not exactly the same as other Oasis class ships that host them. You have the Ultimate Abyss dry slide that goes down to the boardwalk. You have the Flow Rider, as I mentioned, though just one of them. You have zip lining. You have mini golf. The mini golf is different. It's a different design than what I've seen on other Oasis class ships, so that's really fun. You're gonna have the Royal Promenade. You're gonna have Central Park. You're gonna have a lot of similar restaurants that you've seen on other ships. So it's really great to see that a lot of the favorites have made it on board, and then some changes that Royal Caribbean tries to make on these new ships to make them better. Now let's talk food. So I bought the unlimited dining package for this voyage. I recommend that to everyone sailing on a Royal Caribbean ship, especially now that Royal Caribbean has changed their menus in the main dining room. I'm not a big fan. You'll hear me talk about that on the channel a lot. I don't like the new main dining room restaurants. And so for a nominal fee, I paid about $249, including taxes, fees, gratuities, that sort of thing for an unlimited dining package. I get a specialty dining meal every single evening of my cruise, and I get a lunch during sea days and Imbarcation Day, plus $20 of credit towards the a la carte restaurants like Playmakers or Johnny Rockets each day. It's a great deal, especially if you like to eat. I just like the high quality of the food in the specialty dining. It's fun to try out all the restaurants as well versus just going to the main dining room each evening. It also allows you to get a little bit better service, I think. Everyone works really hard on the ship, but I just love the specialty dining crew. They always just go above and beyond, in my opinion. It's fun to try out a bunch of Royal Caribbean ships and see which dining is your favorite on each ship. Even though they're the same restaurant, same menu a lot of the times, chefs vary, and so I, on this ship, really enjoyed my time at Giovanni's. On other ships, it's been Jamie's Italian, which is not a concept that I like as much as Giovanni's, and the Ossobuco was amazing. I love the servers in this restaurant, so really great there. And in Hooked, I was not a fan of Hooked on my Symphony of the Seas cruise in March 2024. I got on board here and really enjoyed my time. We went back for lunch and dinner. Twin tail lobsters for dinner was really good. So overall, I liked Hooked on this ship. I love the location on this and Symphony of Hooked, which is right above the solarium and just has really good views. Now let's talk activities, and this is going to be a theme that has continued, I think, on every Oasis class ship. I don't think that there are enough activities scheduled for a ship this large. There are certainly activities scheduled throughout the day, but a lot of times there's gaps in the schedule, and a lot of times the activities that are actually scheduled are booked in venues that are a little smaller and get really busy. I think that they could do a slightly better job with that. I did notice, though, that they scheduled some activities outdoors in the Aqua Theater, like Family Feud. That would be in like a theater environment typically. So that's really great that they were able to expand the venue there. But I do think more programming is needed, especially when the ship is sold out like this. For entertainment, Oasis class ships have a lot of options for entertainment. A lot of it you have to book in advance before your cruise, or you're stuck dealing with standby, which I do think that it's pretty easy to clear standby, so don't worry if you don't get those reservations. Maybe you book a last minute cruise or something and they're already booked up. Just step on board and try and reserve, or just wait in those standby lines. You'll be able to get in typically. Overall, I felt like the stage shows on this ship weren't as high caliber as other ones that I've seen, though I'm never really impressed besides like the Disney and the Virgin shows that I've seen in terms of entertainment there. Some of the specialty entertainment, like the juggler, I felt like he was just okay. Not really expecting much. The comedians, there were two. One of the comedians was really funny. I thought the other one wasn't all that great. Kind of generally, that's how I feel a lot of the time too, is typically one is better than the other. The Wonder of the Seas is sailing alternating itineraries, Western Caribbean and Eastern Caribbean each week, so I managed to book the Western Caribbean to just fit better in my schedule. I did like the fact that there were 4 ports of call on our voyage, so day 2, which is the day after Imbarcation Day, we stopped at Perfect Day at Coco Cay. I do wish that we had a sea day to start the cruise. I think that's always like a better thing, just because you can explore the ship, you can kind of get in the vacation mood, but no big deal. So we stopped at Coco Cay first, had a sea day, and then made it to Cozumel, Mexico, Roatan, Honduras, and then Costa Maya, Mexico before a sea day on the way home. I'll go port by port. Coco Cay, we had bad weather in the morning. They actually shut down the gangway, and it was pretty severe weather. But we got some breakfast, and by about 10:30 or 11, we were able to go ashore. We had Hideaway Beach tickets, which had just opened a few months ago, so I hadn't had a chance to visit. We booked it for about $36 a person, which is a screaming deal. Well worth it at that price. I liked the upscale nature of the surroundings. I liked the slightly better food. The empanadas were a big surprise to me. I thought those were really great. Pizza wasn't all that amazing, though I am kind of a pizza snob. Service in Highway Beach was really great. The beach itself, I think, is pretty, but you're kind of missing those direct ocean views like you have over on the other side of the island on South Beach. You kind of have this rock, old coral that they've chiseled through to kind of make the beach. So it's a very calm environment in terms of like ocean waves, but just know that you're not going to have kind of that South Beach feel over here in Hideaway Beach. And then we had our sea day. Sea day was great. You can check out the vlog video on my channel to see how those went. We made it to Cozumel, which is one of my favorite stops in the Caribbean. I know it's one of the most popular ones, but I'm a diver and I love getting under the water. My brother-in-law doesn't dive, however, so we did just do a snorkel tour. It was early in the morning. We had some great snorkeling, saw a lot of animals. It was fine. I will say that the tour that we ended up booking stayed pretty close to the ship, and I wish that we went a little bit further down to some of the better reefs, I think, on the southern part of the island. And then we had a little bit of an issue just with kind of the description of the tour and what was actually provided. So we had to argue a little bit with the shore excursion desk once we got on board. But overall, a good day in Cozumel. Grab some lunch on shore as well. In Roatan, I love the diving there too. Wanted to get out on the water again. So we booked a pretty reasonably priced lobster snorkel. Included some touristy things like, a private beach for a little bit, and then the iguana tour. So overall, I probably wouldn't book this tour again just because it was pretty touristy. The snorkeling itself was really great. The island itself was relaxing, though there was just some weirdness involved with like this old zoo that they have on the island, which I didn't like. And then we went to the iguana farm, or sanctuary they call it, and it's about 15 minutes worth of your time on the island, and really no big deal. I kind of enjoyed that, but at the same time, not something I need to see on Roatan. I would recommend a full island tour over on the west end. That's kind of the prettier part of the island, I think. And then finally, we stopped at Costa Maya, which is definitely one of my least favorite ports in the entire Caribbean. Really just manufactured for cruise ships. The port itself is really hard to escape. They kind of make this labyrinth. It's super expensive for Mexico. It's super touristy. A lot of people don't leave that area, which I feel bad for them, because the water itself and the diving and the snorkeling is actually pretty good here, though it can be pretty choppy and windy in Costa Maya. So today we decided to head to the water park, which I'd heard good things about. It was kind of an expensive tour, but I do love my water park, so I wanted to check it out. Pretty good water slides, kind of a weird lazy river, and the place was pretty deserted. There was maybe 30 people in the park with us. So overall, I enjoyed my time at each port. I always think it's great to be cruising, so don't take my negativity at all as something that's like, oh, I don't want to go there because, Mark said it's bad. It's just, it is what it is. Pretty much every itinerary is going to have maybe one port you don't gel with. So that's just how I feel about Costa Maya. And that's our cruise on the Wonder of the Seas. I had a great time. I would definitely book this ship again. Everything felt fresh and new. The crew was great. Of course, the itinerary was fun. Would love to do some Eastern Caribbean sailing here in a bit. So overall, a great time.